Hello, my name is Steve Lemiston, and welcome to the introductory video of CSM 3D Viz. So thank you for joining me, and I'm going to walk through some of the features that are very common and that you're going to be using day to day for building out the models. So as you can see right here, we have in the center of the workspace what we call the plane. And the plane is defined by this uh, green line that encircles this common feature of the model. And you can also see over on this side that it's obviously called plane, and it's got a green line around it. So any of the assets that are currently in the model, when you click on them and make them active, not only do they have a green line over here around what's in play, but they also have them here as well in terms of a green line around the different assets that are currently being used. When you go over here to this green boxed area, which means that it's active, you can see this eye, and if you left click on that eye, you basically turn it off, so you can turn it on and off all the assets, which is very useful when you look at more complicated models where you might be going from operations to some decommissioning. You can turn assets on and off as you move through the workflow of your site. One thing you can see here as you use your right mouse and you swing this plane around, you can see up here that this gizmo also changes. So you can see as you rotate it, your dimensions and this gizmo is changing with it. So it gives you an idea of where you sit geographically in your model and in your coordinate system. And if you were to click on Z, then you get a view straight down, and X and Y would be along the axis of your models as well. So the intent of this workspace is to be very functional, very point and click, and dragging things and assets into your model. So on the right hand side, this is your assets, elements that you're going to be bringing into your model, and listing and coordinating of all your assets. And on the left hand side rather, you've got all your different commands. We'll go through those in a minute. And then the top here is all your common functions with saving and bringing in your different built out models. So if we go and click here, you can see that every time we hover above a specific box, whether it be the library on the right hand side or the commands on the left hand side of the model, it brings up a little pop-up box so you can see exactly what your command is. And if you bring up the asset library, then it gives you all the different assets that are pre-built into the model. And if you click on these, then on the right hand side, you actually get the pre-built models that are available for your immediate use. As you can see here, we've got a whole bunch of different asset subfolders, and it starts off with importing the train. And that is when you have your own DEM or a publicly available DEM that we've provided how to download those. And then that would come in right on top and sit right on top of your plane. We have specific manuals that and instructions, and it's very simple to import your DM into the model. And as you can see here, we go through the buildings, we go through contaminants, and we have a scroll bar here so you can toggle through and bring in any of these specific contaminants. Geology as well. This is your entire library of geology from silts, clays, bedrock, and then it gets into two different watershades, some fractures, some permafrost, and some topsoil. Landscaping, we have a good variety of landscaping features for to use, from grasses to berms to pavement, excavations, fences, and trees. Mining, we have open pits, retention ponds, waste rock piles, head frames, etc. Monitoring, we have a color-coded and different shapes of monitoring. We've got these kind of top ones that are probably more for, say, surface water. And then we have a yellow, a black, and a green, and a red monitoring well, so you can actually describe in your models if maybe you put all your red ones around contaminated site areas and green in non-impacted areas as an example. We have, for the risk assessors, we have a number of really good assets for you to include in your model, from sort of the bugs and bunnies to workers to hawks, fish, people, from the toddler all the way up to the construction worker. For the structures, we have a very good library of structures to bring in. Underground storage tanks, above ground storage tanks, piping, gas pump, bridges, roads, railroads, landfill, and a pump jack, for example. Surface water, we have ponds, lakes, streams, and different streams. And this feature at the very bottom called import GLTF, and that allows you to bring in any three-dimensional object that might be more site specific to your model. So there's some very useful parts of our manual that deal with importing GLTFs. So it's a very powerful way of customizing this for your site-specific build. Could be a three-dimensional object, could be a three-dimensional plume, or any other site feature that is relevant for your build. So that is on this side your asset library, and then this gives you the complete list of every asset that's in play. So similar to what's on the left and right-hand side, they match. So buildings, contaminants, etc. So any buildings that are in the model, you can just toggle on that, and they provide a full list of all the buildings that are in play in the model. Contaminants, geology, etc. So these are all subsets, and if you don't have that toggled on, then it goes back to basically the plane, and then if none of these are active, then the entire asset library is shown beneath here with a scroll bar. So if we go back over here on the, now we're walking more towards the commands. So up here we have ways of creating a new project. So you can see right here, this is untitled because we have no active project right now on in our model that we've imported. We can open up a project, we can save a project, undo and redo. So if you're doing a specific command and it didn't work out, you can undo it or redo it. The manual, this little button pops up the manual, and the manual provides guidance and advice, etc., that runs through the entire build of all the different features throughout the model, from importing a train, a GLTF, to some of the very common features of rotating, scaling, etc. And this is just a little icon about the CSM model. So so that's very common. Elements of typical software. And then on the left-hand side, again, when you bring in a specific asset, then these are all the commands to actually move it. So you can position the asset, you can rotate that asset, you can scale the asset, you can take a screenshot. So if you know exactly what you want to do in terms of taking your shot, you just move this and you can take a screenshot of it. If you have an asset that didn't really work out very well, you can delete it immediately. This is it's one of my favorites, and we have a separate video about this called changing topography or morphology. So if you had a specific geology layer that you bring into the model and you want to deform it, whether you want to show hills or valleys or deformation of the unit, you can go in and do that with the different radius and different amounts, so you can really customize how the geological layers look. You can add an image here, which pops up. For example, let's say you had a couple of pictures of the site that you want to show your users. You can add an image. They show up on the bottom here, and when you click on them, then they will come into the workspace, and you can actually show a picture of a contaminated site or a mine site, or you can actually take a picture of, say, monitoring well chemistry, and that will come up as well. So you can talk about different chemistry over time at some of your monitoring wells for your audience. This lock object is something that we have more specific to the model build, and it's to lock out certain functions so they don't interfere with the functionality. So don't worry about lock object. It's something that's more for keeping the different assets working together and locking objects when some very complicated things are in play software-wise. We have also what's called the pen, and so when you're in the plane mode, a pen function pops up on the bottom, and you can either write on the bare screen of the plane, or if there's a sitemap that sits on top of the plane, you can also use the different colors and scroll out through a surface water feature or some other thing that you wanted to highlight a bit more. Changing the settings is a global setting, so it's adjusting the global settings. So you can go in here, and you can just simply toggle through here and change the back. So you can do any color of a background, which is pretty interesting. You can also change the light intensity. So when your model is built, you can actually change the intensity of the entire model and how it looks as well. The transparency is reserved for the geological layers and some of the water transparency. So when you're on geology over here, then many of those assets are in play to use the transparency function. It's also transparent for the sitemap as well. So if you had a sitemap sitting on top here and you wanted to see inside the model, you can just basically turn that all the way down. You can see how that changed it. So you can actually dial down the transparency of the upper layer. So if I went in and I open up a project, I'm just going to take this one randomly here. I'm going to load it. Here's the model that comes right into view. I'm going to switch on plane, and as you can see, the green line around the plane and circles around the entire plane of the model. I'm using the right-hand mouse button to move the model around, and you can see that also moves the function here. If I wanted to go in and see which buildings are in place, I can just go into here, and it pops up what buildings, and it kind of scroll through all the different buildings that I've used. And again, if I didn't want to see that one, I can just turn it off and turn it on as well, which is kind of interesting and good for model building. I can go back to the plane, and then if I want to say go into geology, and I wanted to turn off the water shade, I can just turn that on and off as well. One of the features here is that you can change the default name of, say, silt 1. You can call it a lower silt. In this case, I was using this contaminated sand body as being my main transport zone, so I can turn that on and off. And then if I go over to the opacity, that function, you can make it opaque, or you can see right through it, make it more like a block model. And if you turn that off, you can kind of see how that whole system works. So if I go back down to here and I turn that on, so you have a function of turning on and off, or you can use the opacity to look right through as well. So those are the very common features of the model, and we have other features and videos in the library that describe very specific other commands. And so thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to helping you and supporting you build very awesome models in the future. Thank you.